Hey there, my name is Niandra. With the second Overwatch 2 beta past us, I thought now might be a good time to talk about the state of Mercy in that new environment. I do think she feels pretty good overall in 5v5 and has the potential to really thrive in Overwatch 2. That being said, I've been feeling a little concerned as well, so I wanted to do a video where I break down her kit into sections. This might be weird, but I actually want to start with Mercy's passive health regeneration. So to recap, if Mercy doesn't take damage for a certain amount of time, she starts to regain health. Overwatch 2 introduced role passives and now every support gets this, albeit a weaker version. When this was first announced, I was a bit bummed out. I had no factual reason to be, I just thought it was a bit sad that Mercy lost something unique. I then ended up really loving this addition since it means I don't have to stop helping my DPS when my Ana gets a bit hurt. And sure, I'll still beam her if she's actively taking damage or if I need to, but for the most part I do let my second support tend to themselves, which then increases my productivity. What I don't love, however, is Mercy being screwed over by the role passive getting nerfed. What I mean by this is during the second beta, Mercy's health regeneration was actually weaker in Overwatch 2 than it is in the first game. When the support passive role was nerfed to take 1.5 seconds to activate, Mercy was also hit by this, even though in Overwatch 1 it takes 1 second to kick in. We spoke to a dev who confirmed that this was intentional, but that things can change. Personally, I find this kinda frustrating, especially when so much focus has been placed on increasing Mercy's survivability. Remember, this passive is Mercy's one way of healing herself. Ana has Nade, Bap has Shift, Moira has Orb, so on. The other supports can still do those and benefit from the role passive, while Mercy just has the role passive. As I said earlier, I heal my other support less in Overwatch 2, and I should expect them to do the same to me, which could potentially be an issue with Mercy specifically. In summary, I think it's kinda silly for the health regeneration to be worse in Overwatch 2, and I think Mercy should have a version that is better than everyone else's, providing she can't heal herself in another way. Moving on, let's talk healing. On the plus side, I do think one less tank makes pairing Mercy with an off healer way less painful. It won't always work and will probably feel worse when Zen isn't such a strong standalone pick, but it's definitely miles ahead of Overwatch 1. On the downside, and I do remember talking about this years ago, I worry that Mercy will end up in a place where she's not bad, but she falls behind the other supports because she can't multitask or contribute much damage directly, which supports are expected to do more of in Overwatch 2. Like, during the betas, I've actually had a really great time as Ana because I love playing aggressively with her and trying to do poke damage. Anyway, if this ends up being the case for Mercy, I don't think it'll be an issue for casual play or low to mid ranks because the consistency of her heal beam is so powerful there. Plus, a lot of casual support players tend to be more passive, like they won't be taking advantage of Baptiste's potential damage output, for example. If Mercy's lack of personal damage contribution is a problem, I worry this will mostly be felt at higher ranks and will be why the only times we see Mercy in Owl is to Hard Pocket, Echo or Pharah. Also unrelated, but I think that Overwatch 2 amplifies the first games. You're either at full health or have no health with very little in between problem quite a lot, and sometimes this hurts Mercy even though it's not her fault and I don't really know what the solution is. Personally, I love the idea of buffing the linger time on Mercy's beam after she or the target breaks line of sight. So like if you go behind a wall or your target leaves range, your beam remains on them for just a bit longer. I like this because it synergizes well with the role passive, prop bouncing, and lets her multitask a little bit more. Moving on, let's talk damage boost, which I personally think feels great in 5v5. I do think there are arguments to be made about damage amplification as a whole being too powerful in Overwatch 2, but I've also seen players and content creators act like Discord Orb and damage boost are exactly the same, which I think is pretty unfair. I also think a lot of non-Mercy mains forget the reason we push damage boost so much. It's because we had to adapt to losing 60 heals per second, which we often found was not good enough to keep a team alive, especially at high ranks. One change I just want added is less ult charge for healing, more for damage boost. I think this would suit our 2 Mercy really well, especially since you will often find yourself needing to do less healing. Most Mercy changes I can go either way on, but this is something I very firmly think should just be done. One thing that EVA mentioned in our recent SVB podcast episode is that she likes to call her favourite Mercy playstyle Dine and Dash. Generally, you beam those who would need or benefit from you the most, rather than just stick on one person all game, all while darting about constantly. I had to agree with her, and I love the name as well. I do think there is a difference between a hard pocketing Mercy and one that primarily focuses on damage boost, and the latter is more enjoyable. Moving on, let's talk about Valkyrie. So I've always loved this ultimate, but I will happily admit I struggle with it in Overwatch 2. It's very easy to just hold onto it because the timing never feels right, especially when fights end so fast, plus one less player does mean one less potential target. That being said, I do think this is mostly growing pains and something that gets better over time. I generally avoid popping Valk for healing. I tend to mainly use it for damage boost, but I think in Overwatch 2, healing Valks might actually be pretty solid. And if that is the case, it's going to take a long time for Mercy players to adjust to that and shake away the stigma of being a heal bot. Okay, so the way Valkyrie works is your main beam has a range of 60 meters, while the chain beams created are only 10. This won't cover the entirety of most points, so you have to think about who your beam target is, which I think is perfectly fine. However, I kind of feel like 10 meters isn't enough in 5v5. Teams tend to play more spread out, and some of the newer maps are really big. For example, the end of Midtown has this long rectangle sort of area. I have seen plenty of Valkyrie rework ideas where like you can only beam one person but they become turbo powerful. I've never been the biggest fan of this, I think it comes with its own set of problems, but I do wonder if maybe that would be better for 5v5. Also, beam breakage is still a thing, which, why? I mean, I know why, it's a transformation ultimate and that's just how they work, but an experimental card has shown that no breakage is possible with the code. To be quite honest, I am so tired of beam breakage being a discussion when Mercy mains have been asking it for years, so yeah, I'm just moving on. Moving on, let's talk Resurrect, and can I just say, physically activating the ability feels bad in Overwatch 2. I kept having moments where I would press my res key and the game would ignore it. It was like I had to spam the button to actually get it to work, and I know other people have also felt this way. For some reason you can no longer hold down your Resurrect key and walk into range to automatically revive. I did bring this up with the devs like a month ago, and apparently it has already been fixed in a future Overwatch 2 patch, which is great to hear. Okay, so I expected Resurrect to be turbo busted in 5v5, but that's just not really been the case in my experience. Overwatch 2 is a lot more fast paced, so Resurrect, which was designed with the first game in mind, ends up feeling kinda slow and clunky with its cast time. I've also heard a lot of players say they feel like they have less res opportunities with one less tank and teams that generally play more spread out. Another common complaint was that other allies would die while rezzing, or too many allies would die at once for res to be useful. However, I feel like the cast time can't be completely removed because then the window for counterplay is way too small. Resurrect then falls into this awkward spot because so many people don't enjoy playing against it. Maybe there's compromise somewhere, like instant res during Valk, or the cast time is reduced, or you're not slow as much, but I don't know. I do think the arguments that Resurrect doesn't have a place in 5v5 may have some merit, even though this ability is so core to Mercy's identity. Anyway, by how Blizzard have been balancing things, I wouldn't be surprised if Mercy got a 10% damage reduction during Resurrect and everything else is left the same. Also, I'm aware of the elephant in the room, which is mass res and the idea of Valkyrie on E. This video is already way too long, I'm not going to get into that for now, and maybe come back to it in future. Moving on, let's talk Guardian Angel and Superjump. It is important to remember that we're playing betas, and the point of betas is to try new things. That being said, I think most of us are a bit tired by this point, right? Especially because we get limited time with the beta, and each iteration has generally had a couple of big downsides. Plus, most Mercy mains would agree that Overwatch 1 Superjump and all the little GA techs are fine the way they are. Well, on July 28th, we got this blog post that essentially says they're going to take the directional movement from the third iteration and combine it with the ability to launch yourself upwards by pressing crouch. I wanted to scream when I read the words "we are currently testing another GA iteration," but honestly, I'm feeling really good about this one. In my opinion, this combines the best parts of what we've already seen. You may notice this blog post doesn't mention the meter at all, so I asked the devs about it. They mentioned that they've been experimenting with both having one and not having one, but neither is set in stone. I know this is controversial, but I ended up kinda loving the last iteration where Mercy had the meter. It had problems. There was a lot of valid criticism, especially from console players, disabled players, and those with motion sickness, but the potential was extremely high. A lot of people didn't like it, which is completely valid, and side note, it was really funny seeing non-Mercy main creators talk about it because they were quite positive. They were like, oh, this is great, and then you look at posts from Mercy mains and they're all just so fucking angry. I have seen a few posts that are like, Superjump doesn't need changing, and I think it's important to remember that the meta iteration did bring Guardian Angel buffs. Now, you may be thinking, why can't they just add the directional movement and backwards GA and leave Superjump alone? Well, I don't really have a rebuttal for that because I actually think that would be a pretty good solution, but I also do get why they want Superjump to be accessible. The way I described the meta iteration was, it makes ordinary Guardian Angel a lot better and Superjump a lot weaker, and this blog post indicates they want to fix this, which gives me hope. I think the way I see it is, as Mercy, your most basic goals are to stay alive and enable your team. When you break it down to that level, the specifics on how you achieve that don't really matter. What I mean is, I found myself using Superjump a lot less with the meta iteration, and I was fine with that because I was keeping myself alive with cool, snappy Guardian Angel jukes. More control over base Guardian Angel is a fantastic way to make Mercy less dependent on her team while also adding more depth. I genuinely think this advanced version of GA has the potential to add more skill to Mercy than our one Superjump. I spent the first beta spamming the shit out of prop bounces, and I didn't even miss them here because I could achieve the same effect in a different way. I'm not here to tell anyone their opinion is invalid or that you have to like this iteration, but shifting mindsets really helped me click with it and may help you too. I've said this in like 3 videos now, but I think it is perfectly fine that the devs want to streamline Superjump, and I would rather they try too many iterations than just go with the first one even if it sucks. To me, that is what betas are for. My problem is that it feels like everything else about Mercy has been pushed aside to focus on a part of her kit that won't ever be the reason she's playable or not. I think I will be genuinely kind of upset if we get to October 4th and literally everything is the same apart from Superjump. I think this would be a slap in the face to all the Mercy mains who gave respectful, well-written, non-aggressive feedback in the last 6 months. And last of all, let's talk pistol. Not much to say about this one, it feels pretty good in Overwatch 2. Picking off low health targets, especially during Valk when you can see health bars, feels way more viable. Like, I'm not as worried about my team when I try to make these plays, but I can't be careless either. The only 2 things I can really think to mention are, 1, every 5 months a clip goes around Twitter about the bullet hitbox. I've heard that it's the same size as D.Va's pistol, and projectiles in general are quite lenient, but I will agree that Mercy's looks pretty egregious. You gotta consider the movement and unlimited ammo that she gets in Valkyrie as well. All in all, I would be perfectly content with the hitbox of Mercy's pistol bullets being made smaller, like it's just not something that would really affect me. Then secondly, I would love a separate sensitivity for pistol and staff, especially if enhanced GA movement is here to stay. And there we go, that's all from me. I know it's not clear, but for the most part I have enjoyed Mercy a lot in Overwatch 2, but I do think she could just do with a small handful of tweaks to be better in a competitive environment. Thank you so much for watching, feel free to check out my other videos for more Mercy content, and have a nice day.